Hello, my friends. Good evening. The time right now is 11:51 p.m. So it's really late. It's a Thursday evening. We're getting close to midnight, and I'm here to talk about an extremely important topic. When I say extremely important, I really mean extremely important. And so please stay here. And as I share my thoughts on this topic, I want to hear from you as well. So please participate in the live chat. Wonderful to see our friend Michael Brown tuning in. Michael Brown, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Others, as you are tuning in, also please say hello in the live chat because that way we know who's here, who's not. Okay, Michael Brown from Australia, always good to see you. Thanks for being here, Michael. My friends, America's relationship with Canada is unique. I think we can all agree. It's a unique relationship. America and Canada, the United States of America and Canada, we are next door neighbors. Any dispute on that? I don't think anyone's going to dispute that statement. We're next door neighbors, and as such, I believe that we should be excellent friends and we can be excellent friends. And if you study this continent, if you study people's mindset, then you're going to come to the conclusion that there is great friendship between the Canadians and the Americans. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Now, I'm keeping politics aside. I'm not talking about government. I'm not talking about trade. I'm not talking about bilateral relationship, diplomatic relationship, so on and so forth. We're not going to get into that yet. We will talk about it in just a few minutes. But I'm just talking about how the general public of Canada and the general public of the United States, how they feel about each other. I think we like the Canadian people. Absolutely. And I think the Canadian people also like us. Okay. For the most part. I'm speaking in general terms. I think we can all agree. Frank, good to see you, Frank. Good to see you. Thank you for being here, Frank. Now, my friends, would you agree, Michael, Frank, would you agree that's, with my assessment? I hope so. I hope so. Now, the friendship among the people, excellent, but things have been. This is quite unfortunate. Okay, I'm just having difficulty even saying this. Things have been very challenging. The relationship between the United States and Canada has been very, very difficult if you take into account the trade relationship. Okay? And I wish I could say, listen, I talk about a lot of different issues, social, political, domestic, international, right? And ideally, I would love to be able to start a live stream and say, you know what, I got great news to share. So let's talk about the great news. Everything's great. Trade is going great. Public safety is excellent. Everything's wonderful. But you know what? In reality, no matter how much we want things to be awesome, there are challenges. And right now, very, very unfortunately, I'm having to report to you that things between Canada and the United States not going well. Something happened earlier this evening, which I'm going to talk about, which is a very, very serious issue, and it'll show you something that went wrong on the Canadian side, which is having a tremendously adverse impact on the US-Canada relationship. Okay? It's not our fault. I want to be very, very clear, and you'll understand when I go into the details. Not our fault. The United States of America, we've not done anything wrong. Our president has not done anything wrong. The Trump administration has not done anything wrong. But on the Canadian side, they've done something which is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And that's what we are going to discuss today. And as a result, you'll understand when I go into the details, the relationship between the United States and Canada, it's in a very tough spot right now. Okay, so let's go into the details. Now keep in mind, as you listen to this discussion, as you pay attention to my analysis, as I share my thoughts with you, as you also share your thoughts in the live chat window, keep one thing in mind, that Canada is one of the biggest trading partners that we have. We meaning the United States of America. I'm proud to be an American, and I'm telling you a fact that Canada is one of our biggest trading partners. There are goods moving across the US-Canada border all the time. Large volume of trade between US and Canada. Massive volume of trade between these two countries. And you know what? Just look at the border that we have with Canada. So easy, right? You're on a device right now, you got your smartphone, you got your tablet, you got your desktop or your laptop, whatever. Just look up North America on a map, on an electronic map. If you've got the old paper map, that works fine as well. And look at the length of the US-Canada border. North America, massive continent, and look how long our border is with Canada, from west to east. A massive border. And keeping all that aside now, let's talk about the main issue, which is why I'm doing this live stream. And if you are here, don't go anywhere. Please stay. Whether you agree with me or not, whether your views differ from mine or not, stay here, listen to what I have to say, and you can fact check me afterwards or live as I'm speaking. You can fact check me in real time and share your thoughts in the live chat. So, my friends, we have been having trade talks with Canada. I think you know that. Trade negotiations have been ongoing with Canada. And earlier this evening, President Trump made an announcement on Truth Social. And that announcement sent shockwave across the entire continent, all right? I'm not saying, oh, President Trump's announcement sent a shockwave around the United States, around the country. Sent shockwave around all over the entire continent of North America. What was that announcement? I'm going to share that with you. And I know many of you, you're already asking me that question. Tassif, we didn't get to see the news. We didn't check Truth Social in the last few hours. So tell us what is going on. Well, my friends, that's why I'm here. And I will tell you what I was doing. So this evening, I was sitting in my living room on the sofa, relaxing. You know, it's Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. You're heading into the weekend, and I was just hold on a second. I was sitting in my living room, relaxing, and I got a notification on my phone. And I checked the notification, and I saw the headline, and I was so shocked. I almost immediately jumped up from the sofa, and I went straight for my laptop, and I opened my laptop, opened the screen, and I wanted to read the entire news story in details on a larger screen. So I pulled up the news article on my laptop and I read the whole thing, and I started looking at other sources, other news outlets, different news channels reporting on the issue, and I was so shocked. Okay, the news is that President Trump has announced that all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Terminated. All trade negotiations with Canada terminated. Okay? Now there's reason for that. I know that some of you liberals may be jumping to the conclusion and blaming Donald Trump, right? I mean, that's the liberal reaction. Oh, President Trump terminated trade negotiations with Canada. Oh, it's President Trump's fault. If that's your instant reaction, please calm down. Calm down. You have to learn the details before you can come to a conclusion. Do not jump into a conclusion without knowing the whole story. Yes, President Trump made the decision very publicly, he announced it, that all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. But there is a reason for this decision. And I'm going to give you the reason here. And once you know the reason, you're going to say, Mr. Trump, you made the right decision. And each and every day, President Trump is proving to the whole country that he is the right man for the job. Every day. It's like a progress report. If you're keeping track of what President Trump is doing on so many different issues, domestic, international, I mean, if you want to do a daily progress report, daily, he's doing great work. And he's proving it to the American people each and every day that he is the right man for the job. This is who we need. So let me go into the details here. If you're hearing this for the first time about this termination of trade negotiations, if you're getting this news from me, I know how shocked you are. I was very shocked. I'm still kind of shocked, but now I understand why he did what he did. Okay, so before we go into the details, I want to read to you the exact statement, the exact words from President Trump. Here is what President Trump wrote on Truth Social. He wrote, and I quote, "The Ronald Reagan Foundation has just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was for $75 million. They only did this to interfere with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President DJT," which is President Trump's initials. End quote. That's the end of the quote. President DJT. And DJT is President Trump's initials, Donald J. Trump. If you need a minute to absorb all that, take a minute. Take a minute if you want to absorb all that information. I know it's not easy. When we have been having trade negotiations for months now, it's not easy to suddenly terminate it. But there is a reason why President Trump did what he did, which he clearly explained in his Truth Social post. I mean, just think about what Canada did. And President Trump is reporting this. Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. Okay? And I'm going to go more into this. This ad was for $75 million. Not a cheap ad. There's a lot of money that they poured into this. $75 million. And President Trump said that they only, meaning Canada, they only did this to interfere with the decision of the US Supreme Court and other courts. My friends, so I'm reading to you, which I've already done. I've read to you a statement from President Trump. And I know some of you out there may not be fans of President Trump. There are folks out there who don't like anything that President Trump does. I mean, there's nothing I can say or do to change your mind. If you have kind of like a fixed mindset, like President Trump is doing something, oh, I oppose it. Whatever he does, I oppose. If that's your mindset, I mean, there's nothing I can do or say to change it unless you start seeing the truth from within. Okay? When the truth is in front of you and you start seeing the truth, your mind will change. But there's nothing I can say to change it to convince you to think otherwise at this time. So I'm not going to try, but I'm presenting to you the facts, accurate information. Here's what the Ronald Reagan Foundation and Institute said, okay? Because President Trump talked about the Reagan Foundation, and that the Reagan Foundation announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. So it's a misleading advertisement. It's a dishonest advertisement. So here's what the Ronald Reagan Institute said, and I'm going to read to you their statement because, as I said, if you don't like Trump, you're not going to like Trump's statement. So let me give to you the exact statement from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. Get ready for the statement. Here it is, and I quote, "The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute learned that the government of Ontario, Canada, created an ad campaign using selective audio and video of President Ronald Reagan delivering his radio address to the nation on free and fair trade, dated April 25, 1987. The ad misrepresents the presidential radio address, and the government of Ontario did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the remarks. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute is reviewing its legal options in this matter. We encourage you to watch President Reagan's unedited video on our YouTube channel," end quote. So this is a very serious matter. Tommy Brown's here. Tommy, good to see you. Tommy Brown, freedom-loving American. Thank you all for being here. Please subscribe if you have not done so already. So this is a very, very serious matter. And you can kind of pinpoint this, that this was done by the government of Ontario, Canada. So Ontario is a province of Canada. We got states, beautiful states. We got beautiful states. Canada has provinces. So Ontario is a province of Canada. And it is the government of Ontario, Canada that has done this. They created an ad campaign using selective audio and video of President Reagan. I mean, this is just mind-boggling how the government of a Canadian province can do this while trade negotiations were ongoing. Now, as of now, the trade negotiations have been terminated by President Trump. But he did this in response to what the government of Ontario, Canada did. A very dishonest act, very misleading. It's unbelievable. It's shocking. But the question is, how could the government of Ontario, Canada do this while international trade negotiations were ongoing? It doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? But they did. And they are caught. What a shame that the government of Ontario did this, taking selective audio and video of President Trump to try to come up with a very dishonest ad. My friends, this mess was created by the government of Ontario. And why did they do this? Okay, let me ask you, who is the leader of Ontario, the government of Ontario? Can anyone answer that question? Do you know who the leader is? Like in the United States, our states have governors, right? You pick a state, there's a governor who's the chief executive of the state. In Canada, for the province of Ontario, who is the leader? Can anyone write that name? Yeah, you can Google it, obviously, but without Googling, Ishak is saying Ford, okay? Anyone else? We got one guess who said Ford. Scott Wells is here. Scott, good to see you. Kristen's here. Kristen, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Always wonderful to see our friends tuning in. Okay. Eric is saying Ford. 2 people have said Ford. Anyone else? You want to make a guess? I'm going to give you 10 more seconds if you have not written your guess. Who's the leader of the government of Ontario? All right. People have guessed Ford. That's right. That's right. It is Doug Ford. Okay? And his title is, he's the premier. Honorable Premier Doug Ford. He leads Ontario. He leads the government of Ontario. And reportedly, Doug Ford said that this message would be repeated to every Republican district across the USA. Oh, really? What a plan. And how much did that cost? $75 million. Wow. $75 million for this ad campaign. This dishonest ad that Doug Ford said would be repeated. This message would be repeated to every Republican district across the USA. Now, I gotta ask you this. Did the government of Ontario think that they can get away with this? That they can select audio and video and come up with a dishonest ad and no one's going to be able to catch it? Is that what they thought? Unbelievable stuff going on. Unbelievable stuff. Okay? My friends, do you think that the government of Ontario thought that, oh, there's not going to be any consequences of such an action. I mean, did they really think that there would be no consequences? An ad using selective audio and video, it's a misleading ad, plain and simple, dishonest. And what it has resulted in is the following: complete termination of trade negotiations with Canada. Complete termination when the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, which, by the way, is the greatest country in the world, when the commander-in-chief of the USA says all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated, and when President Trump wrote that in his post, it was all caps. The letters were all caps. All trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. So, my friends, let's go back a couple weeks. Things were going well. Do you remember that it was just earlier this month? We're still in the month of October. It was just earlier this month that Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, he was in the White House just a couple weeks ago. Just earlier this month, Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada visited President Donald J. Trump in the White House in Washington, D.C., and it was a good visit. That must be noted. It was a good visit. President Trump seemed happy. Prime Minister Mark Carney seemed happy. It seemed to everyone, us people watching all the updates, it seemed that things are going well. Of course, we've seen in the past, in the recent past, in the last few months, we've seen a lot of tension between the USA and Canada. But things started improving. Things were going well. It seemed that things were heading in the right direction, and then this happened. And what did Doug Ford's Ontario government do? Completely destroyed the trade talks with this ad. Completely destroyed the trade talks with this move, with this dishonest ad. And President Trump made a bold decision. He terminated trade negotiations. So I want to understand one thing. How is Prime Minister Mark Carney going to react to this? What is his response going to be? Now, last I checked, before starting this live stream, I did not see any statement from Prime Minister Mark Carney's office. I didn't see any statement, okay? Maybe I can check again. Do you want me to check again to see if there's any new statement from Mark Carney? I got my laptop right here. Okay, let's do this real time. I'm going to check and see if Prime Minister Mark Carney has any response to this. No response. No response. I just refreshed my X page, formerly known as Twitter, the X app. I just refreshed that page. I went to Mark Carney's profile here, and I am not seeing any response from Mark Carney. It's been hours since President Trump made that announcement. It's a weekday, and it doesn't matter if it's daytime or nighttime. You know, in international relations, in trade, in politics, there is no day, there is no night. Things can happen anytime. If you are the leader of a country, if you're the head of a state, head of government, if you're the prime minister, you're the president, you don't wait until the next business day to respond. No. If something happens, something of this magnitude, something so significant, that the US president is saying, I'm terminating trade talks with Canada, the Canadian Prime Minister has to respond immediately. He's not going to say, oh, you know what, it's after hours, How about we wait until the next business day and we're going to respond? No. The response has to come immediately. No waiting. I mean, hold on. I gotta look at the time here. So President Trump, he posted this statement on social media. It's been what, more than 2 hours, I think. Has it been more than 2 hours? Let me check. Let me check. It has been more than 2 hours. If you are the prime minister of a country, 2 hours is enough time to come up with a statement. Respond to this. Respond to this. Because I think the prime minister has to respond. Mark Carney is the prime minister of all of Canada. Doug Ford is the premier of Ontario. So Doug Ford, as I understand, I mean, the Canadian government structure is different from what we have in the United States. But based on what I understand, Doug Ford has his jurisdiction. But for Mark Carney, he's the prime minister of all of Canada. So whatever happens in Canada, whether in this province or this city or that city, it should all matter to Prime Minister Mark Carney. And so why has he not responded? It's been more than 2 hours. I think it's been more than 3 hours, all right? But to be safe, I could say more than 2 hours. And there's no response from Mark Carney yet. No statement from Mark Carney. You know what? I think Prime Minister Mark Carney is just having an extremely rough evening. Okay? I think he's struggling to come up with a statement. I think, okay, this is something which I am imagining, which I'm about to tell you. Here's what I imagine is happening. I think the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, he might be on the phone with Premier Doug Ford, asking Doug Ford, Doug, why did you do this? Doug, why did you have to come up with this ad, which is a highly misleading ad? It's not a genuine ad. It's not an honest ad. An ad with selective audio, a selective video, very, very misleading. Doug, why did you do this? You ruined everything, Doug. I think this is what Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to say to Doug Ford. I think he's further going to say, Doug, we were having productive talks, and you came up with this smart idea to air such an ad, and as a result of your smart move, Doug, our trade negotiations with the United States have been terminated. It's your fault, Doug. I think this is how, and as I said, this is a scenario that I'm imagining, but I think something very similar is happening. I think Prime Minister Mark Carney is saying something very similar to Doug Ford, basically saying, Doug, why did you do this? Because keep in mind, Mark Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada. Doug Ford is the Premier of Ontario. He's got his area, which is still a very big area, but it's smaller than all of Canada, right? So why did Doug Ford do this? Which ended up completely destroying the trade talks that the US was having with all of Canada, not just with Ontario, all of Canada. My friends, I don't know, you got to share your thoughts with me. You got to share your thoughts, my friends. You got to share your thoughts. And um, let's see. Okay, so there was this one individual just repeating the same comment, and I had to block that person. Okay, I don't like blocking people here, but sometimes I have to if they're spamming my live chat window here. Okay, this is for productive conversation, not for spamming. Okay. Anyway, so as I was saying, Doug Ford, I don't know if he realizes this, he made a big mistake. Very big mistake. Then again, there's something else which I feel must be pointed out. Something that you got to keep in mind. This is very important, so I want you to kindly pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. Hold on a second, friends. Okay. By the way, if you have not subscribed yet to this channel, please do so. I would appreciate you joining this community and being a part of this community. Keep this in mind, and this is very crucial information. It was just a day ago that Prime Minister Mark Carney said that Canada is going to double its non-US exports in the next decade. Okay, so clearly Prime Minister Mark Carney is planning to reduce Canada's dependence on the US market and to try to sell their stuff elsewhere. Okay, I'm going to repeat this for those who missed it the first time. Prime Minister Mark Carney said that Canada is going to double its non-US exports in the next decade. So, in short, in simple terms, Canada is basically looking for an alternate market. Canada sells a lot of stuff to the US. But now Canada is going to try to sell more stuff to other countries around the world. They will try to find new customers. Okay? So a lot of Canadian exports come to the US. Now Mark Carney is thinking about whatever Canada exports to the rest of the world, he's going to try to double that. Okay? So think about it. Canada sends stuff to the US. Canada sends stuff to the rest of the world. The part that Canada sends to the rest of the world, exports, Mark Carney wants to double that. He wants to do larger volume of trade with other countries around the world. Why? Because Mark Carney wants to reduce Canada's dependence on the US market. Okay, I don't know how he's going to accomplish that. I honestly, I'm not saying this to, you know, like I'm not making fun of Canadian government and your strategy. Okay, I mean, I'm just being very genuine. Okay, how is Canada going to do that? There is no substitute of the US market. There isn't. American consumers, our wallets, our pockets are very strong as a whole. I'm not judging individual people. I'm just saying, as a country, what we consume, collectively, we the consumers, we are very, very powerful. America buys a lot of stuff from other parts of the world. We buy a lot of stuff from Canada. Now, if Canada thinks that they are going to go out there and find other customers, well, they can try. And maybe to some extent they'll see some success. Okay, if they try real hard to find customers elsewhere and try to increase their export volume for the rest of the world, okay, yeah, maybe they'll see some success. But if they are thinking that they're going to find a substitute of the US market, that's not going to happen. Not in the foreseeable future. And yeah, it's not going to happen because our wallets are very strong as a country. Our purchasing power, our capacity, our ability to buy from other countries, it is so massive that a lot of countries survive by selling their stuff to the US. I mean, it's the truth, okay? If we, the American people, we stop buying stuff from a certain country, that country might end up in a huge economic crisis. There are certain countries around the world that heavily depend on the US customers, on the US consumers, because they have their factories, they produce their products, and a huge chunk of what they produce, they sell to the US. If we don't buy, they're not going to get the revenue. Their factories are going to close. Their workers are going to be laid off. And there's going to be greater poverty as a result. So I'm just not mentioning any particular country name. I'm just saying that there are countries like that. They economically survive by selling their stuff to the US, by exporting to the US. And they're able to do that because we, the American consumers, we buy stuff from other countries. Like we buy stuff from Canada. If Canada now wants to find a substitute of the US market, they're not going to find much success in that. They can try. Not going to be successful. So I saw a date of November the 4th. Okay. Reportedly, that's when Mark Carney will release the budget, the government budget. So mark that date on the calendar, November 4th. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about after that. I'm not saying I'll do a live stream on the Canadian budget. Okay. I'm not saying that. I'm not making a commitment. I'm just saying pay attention to what happens on November 4th, because that's the date that's being reported for when Prime Minister Carney will release the government budget. I'm curious to see what's in that budget, truly. Okay. I mean, do you share your thoughts with me. Do you think it's easy for Canada to just say, hey, we're gonna be slowly detaching ourselves from our neighbor, which is, us, USA. I mean, can they do that? Do you think that's what they are hoping for? That they're going to slowly detach themselves from the United States and they'll be on their own? Are they going to prosper on their own? Without the American consumer, without our purchasing power, is Canada going to prosper? Is Canada going to be able to keep up and make the same kind of money by selling to the rest of the world? I don't know. I'll let you answer that. William Miller is here. William, so good to see you. So good to see William's name pop up. It's been a while, William. Good to see your name. Maybe you've been here and I just missed seeing your name, perhaps. Um, but good to see you. By the way, please subscribe if you have not done so already. I would appreciate that. Subscribe and stay connected. Um, William is saying big governors race in Virginia. Oh, yeah. I haven't talked about it recently, at least. Um, Maybe I talked about it a while back. Can't remember. Kay Cooper is here. Kay, good to see you. That's our friend Kay Cooper from Texas. Yeah, the New Jersey race and the Virginia race, these are going to be so important. Um, okay. All right. So the US market is extremely powerful, and I don't think, tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think that Canada is going to find a substitute market of this size and this power. Okay, here's what's going to happen. This is going to be very interesting. The next few hours, well, we're past midnight here in the Midwest. It's 12:38 a.m. in the American Midwest. I'm in Wisconsin. So we're technically into the 24th of October. This date is going to be extremely important because Mark Carney has to respond to what President Trump wrote. He's searching for a response. He's struggling to come up with a response because Doug Ford and the Ontario government did a huge blunder. It was a massive blunder. They should never have published that really dishonest ad, but they did, and President Trump responded. He terminated all trade negotiations, and now Prime Minister Mark Carney has to react to that. And he's probably just very, very confused as to what he should do. What do you think Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to do? Over the next few hours, the next few days, we're going to see what happens. I mean, where do the trade negotiations go from here? Well, I guess the answer is there is no trade negotiation anymore. All trade negotiations with Canada have been terminated. So there is no trade negotiations. So do you think Doug Ford is going to apologize? Premier Ford, do you think he's going to apologize? Do you think he's going to I mean, what should he do? If you were advising Doug Ford, what would you advise Ontario Premier Doug Ford to do? I think he should do a press conference, invite the media, have all the cameras and microphones ready, and Doug Ford should apologize to President Trump. That's what I think should happen. You may not agree with me. That's what I think he should do. Doug Ford should apologize for this misleading and dishonest ad. Frank says T, which means tossive tells the truth. Okay, so now there's something I want to talk about. Once again, I want to hear your thoughts, but as I said, Doug Ford, I think, should apologize. Now it's up to President Trump if he's going to accept an apology from Doug Ford. I mean, I don't think Doug Ford has apologized yet. Maybe he has, and I don't know, but he definitely should. Let me check one thing here. Give me 1 second. 1 second, my friends. I'm just checking Doug Ford's X page, and I don't see any reactions from him either. He hasn't said anything. He hasn't said anything, at least hasn't published anything on X. Okay, someone's saying Twitter. Yeah, X, formerly known as Twitter. Okay, so my friends, going back to a very interesting topic. Do you think that Canada should become the 51st American state? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the live chat here. Let me see your answer. Should Canada become America's 51st state? Okay, a lot of folks saying no. All right, okay. Share your thoughts. If you say no, you say no. That's fine. And then I got a yes. Okay, I see people saying yes. Okay. Okay, I see yes, I see no. It's a mix. It's a mix of yes and no. Tell me, if you say yes, tell me why yes. If you say no, tell me why no. It's an open discussion. I see another yes. Okay. Frank is saying yes. Yeah, tell me. I'm looking at your comments. All right. Okay. I believe that we may be heading towards that. Okay. I know that the conversation about whether Canada would become the 51st American state or not, that conversation kind of, what's the right word? It kind of like faded a little bit, right? People started talking about other things. I mean, there are a lot of other things to talk about, you know. In the US, we're going to talk about our fight against the drug traffickers. We're talking about deportation, mass deportation. We were talking about the Middle East for a while. We still are talking about the Middle East, the peace deal in the Middle East. We're talking about Ukraine, Russia. So there are other topics that people are focusing on. But let's bring back that discussion about whether Canada should be the 51st American state. I believe that we may see that process be brought back. Process meaning just the discussion, just having the discussion, just having the conversation, looking at the various arguments for and against, and looking at how this may end up happening. If it does end up happening, what would be the procedure? Okay. But you know what? If you are smart, if you are intelligent, you're not gonna just disregard that topic. You're not gonna say, "Oh, it's never gonna happen. Let's just forget." No, I think there's real possibility, real possibility of a pathway for Canada to become the 51st American state. Okay. Okay, someone's saying that will never happen. How do you know? How do you know? That's my question. If you say that will never happen, so in your language, you are expressing an extreme level of like guarantee. Like you're basically saying that will never happen. You're guaranteeing that it will never happen. How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know it's never going to happen? I'm not saying it will happen. I'm not guaranteeing. Listen, I'm opening up the conversation. I'm not saying, "Oh, it's going to happen definitely." I can always speak in terms of likelihood. I feel that the conversation about that, the discussion about that will restart. I think once again, people will be talking about, okay, let's talk about Canada and whether or not Canada should be America's 51st state. I'm not saying it will be or it won't be. But if you say, "Oh, it'll never be," how do you know? What gives you that level of confidence? What if you're wrong? Do you know that there are many Canadians, believe it or not, there are many Canadians who would like to become Americans. They would like to see Canada become a part of the United States of America. There are many people in Canada who want that. Okay? So if there's a growing movement in Canada, let's say more and more people decide that, hey, we're going to be better off being a part of the United States. If more and more Canadians start thinking like that, then there's going to be a movement, a grassroots movement that's going to send a message to those in political power in Canada. It's going to send a message from the grassroots that, hey, Canada is going to be better off being an American state. Listen, you have to look at what's good for Canada. It's good for Canada to become an American state. Okay, do you remember we talked about the Golden Dome? The Golden Dome missile defense system, which is probably going to be the greatest thing ever in national defense. Greatest thing ever, the Golden Dome. And who is leading this initiative? It is the United States. It is President Donald J. Trump. It is War Secretary Pete Hegseth and people in the Trump administration. The Golden Dome missile defense system, it'll be, once it's done, it'll be the greatest symbol of the strength of American defense. The Golden Dome missile defense system, okay? And you know what? Canada wants to be a part of that. That's right. So Canada is thinking, oh, America is going to have the Golden Dome. We want to be a part of it because America is doing something amazing. We want to be a part of it. America is doing something great. We want to participate in that. So Canada is clearly looking to experience, to have some advantages from this Golden Dome missile defense system. Canada wants to be a part of this because Canada knows that America is the global leader. America is going to have this Golden Dome missile defense system, so it's better for Canada to be a partner in this. That way Canada will benefit. So why not become the 51st American state? Why not become the 51st American state? By the way, I'm trying to read the comments, but there are so many comments coming in, I just can't keep up um, with all the comments. Too many comments coming in, which is good, which is great, I think. Someone's saying, is Greenland part of the US yet? Well, hey, listen. Thanks for bringing that up, Jeff. Thank you for bringing that up. I was going to have that conversation in a future live stream. Wouldn't that be awesome? Listen, if you are thinking that we have forgotten about Greenland, we have not. We have not forgotten about Greenland. Greenland will be significantly better off if they become a part of the United States of America. Why not? I mean, that's a question for Greenland and the people who live there. Why not become a part of the greatest country in the world? Do you know what the greatest country in the world is? It's the United States of America. It's the United States of America, the greatest country in the world. Christina is asking, why would a country become a state? Why not? Why not? Listen, you got to understand one thing. Why do so many people from all over the world want to come to the USA? Let me ask you that. When Joe Biden opened up the border, remember what nightmare we went through when Joe Biden opened up the border? What did we see? People from all over the world flooding into the United States. Why? Because we are the greatest country in the world, and people want to take advantage of this country. People want to be here. It's the best country, greatest in the world. And so if people from all over the world want to come to the US, here's Greenland getting an opportunity, if I might say so, to become a part of the US. Why wouldn't Greenland want to do that? It's in Greenland's best interest. Right? I mean, the America is the greatest country. People want to come to the US so desperately that they cross the border. They do They go through a very long and difficult journey through so many Latin American countries. People go through all that, and they walk to the U.S. border, and they cross the border, as we saw during the Biden administration. Of course, that's illegal what they do, illegal entry, and that has stopped because President Trump has secured the border. But we saw that people want to experience U.S. They want to come here. So if Greenland is getting an opportunity, if Greenland gets an offer that, hey, you guys want to be a part of the greatest country in the world, then I think it would be very logical for Greenland to say yes. And definitely it would be very logical, very reasonable for Canada to say yes, that they want to be the 51st American state. So I hope I answered the question of the person who asked me that question. I hope I answered it. And listen, most importantly, many Canadian people want that. And I think there's a significant shift happening in Canada where more and more people would like to see Canada be a part of the US. Okay? More and more Canadians would love to become Americans. They would love to see Canada becoming an American state. Okay? More and more people. It's happening. All right. So my friends, it was great having this conversation with you. I hope I was able to share some important information with you. That's always my goal. And I know that as time goes by, we're going to get more updates. So over the next few hours, it's already 12:59 a.m., almost 1 a.m. here in Wisconsin. So I would say over the next 12 hours, let's give it 12 hours, you are going to hear, hopefully, what Prime Minister Carney's reaction is to President Trump's announcement that all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. And I'm very curious to see if Premier Doug Ford is going to apologize or not, Ontario Premier Doug Ford, or what kind of a statement he's going to come up with in response to what President Trump announced. So that's all I have for now, my friends. Do you have any questions for me? Anything you want to discuss? I'm not going. I can stay here if you have things you want to discuss. All right. Okay. Well, we can discuss next time. Thank you all. And I hope you'll subscribe and tune in for future live streams. So may God bless you all. May God bless President Donald J. Trump. May God bless the Trump administration. May God bless the Republicans in Washington. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless our U.S. allies. And may God bless freedom-loving people all over the world. Thank you so very much, my friends. And remember, together, we will make America great again. Have a wonderful night, and I'm going to be back again very soon with more videos and more live streams. Thank you, my friends.